are watching World News program with me, Miriam Zian. To the headlines. The United States affirmed that Algeria is a cornerstone of regional stability in the fight against terrorism. Members of Congress commend Algeria's role and pioneering experience in combating the phenomenon, and the International Monetary Fund praises the stability of the Algerian macroeconomy. The Iran-US file. Washington says talks will be held on Friday in Oman. Tehran confirms its readiness for negotiations, provided its demands are respected, while Ankara says it is doing its utmost to prevent the region from sliding into a new conflict. In Sudan, at least 22 people were killed when the Rapid Support Forces targeted the Al-Kuwait hospital in South Kordofan. The army announced it had carried out intensive airstrikes on RSF positions in the west of the country, and the European Union condemns the forces' attack on Kadugli, calling it a flagrant violation of international law. As the New START nuclear treaty expires, Axios reports that the US and Russia are nearing an agreement to extend it. The US military announces an agreement between the two sides to resume high-level military dialogue, while Moscow expresses regret over the failure to reach an agreement to extend the treaty. Welcome to the details of your nightly news. First, the head of the U.S. State Department's Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs, Robert Palladino, said that Algeria is a key pillar of regional stability thanks to its successful counterterrorism achievements. Speaking during a U.S. congressional hearing dedicated to discussing counterterrorism efforts in North Africa and the Sahel region, Palladino indicated that of African leaders, recognition of Algeria's role was reflected in the appointment of the Algerian president as the African Union's champion for counterterrorism and prevention since the position was created in 2017, a move he described as African acknowledgement of Algeria's expertise in this field. Meanwhile, Deputy Coordinator of the U.S. State Department's Counterterrorism Office, Joe Burkert, said that Algeria possesses strong and accumulated security capabilities and plays a decisive and central role in securing its borders as part of regional counterterrorism efforts.
Algeria's counterterrorism successes also make it a critical pillar of stability in the region.
Algeria, of course, has always had a strong capability, and they do an excellent job of securing their border.
Members of the U.S. Congress praised Algeria's leading role and pioneering experience in counterterrorism, noting that Algeria is a stabilizing force in North Africa and the Sahel due to its historic expertise in fighting terrorism. During a security-focused hearing on North Africa and the Sahel region, lawmakers emphasized that Algerian-U.S. counterterrorism cooperation represents a positive and strategic partnership based on combating extremist groups and regional peace.
The Algerian government has purchased Russian fighter aircraft, and it's in talks to spread the groups. I want to move on because Algeria has been an important U.S. counterterrorism partner.
Members of the U.S. Congress have praised Algeria's leading role and expertise in counterterrorism, recognizing the country as a key pillar of stability in North Africa and the Sahel. Their acknowledgement highlights the effectiveness of Algeria's strategy and approach in tackling this complex regional challenge. Marwa Blaiwer has more in this report.
In a development highlighting Algeria's effective strategy and leadership in regional peace and security, U.S. Congress members emphasized the essential role of cooperation with Algeria in the bilateral partnership between Washington and Algiers. Stability in North Africa and the Sahel region, they say, hinges on Algeria's proven experience in combating terrorism, an approach that goes beyond purely security measures where many countries have failed. This strong Algerian-American collaboration was further confirmed by Massad Boulos, senior advisor to the U.S. President for Africa, Arab and Middle Eastern Affairs, who, speaking from Algeria, reaffirmed the shared commitment to deepen cooperation in addressing security and regional challenges. The partnership between Algeria and the US extends beyond economics and energy, critical sectors for both nations, to include enhanced security ties. A recently signed memorandum of understanding between Algeria and the U.S. Africa Command, AFRICOM, aims to strengthen military cooperation and reinforce the promising alliance, especially in the fight against terrorism, alongside expanding collaboration in economic and energy sectors.
Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune received on Thursday IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva. A statement from the Algerian presidency said the meeting was attended by Finance Minister, Presidential Advisor for Communication, Diplomatic Affairs Advisor, Financial and Banking Affairs Advisor, and Acting Governor of the Bank of Algeria. Following her meeting with President Tebboune, Kristalina Georgieva praised Algeria's macroeconomic stability, economic growth, and decline in inflation, expressing IMF's support for Algeria's efforts to diversify its economy.
We just had a very comprehensive and fruitful discussion with the President, during which I had the opportunity to express my gratitude to Algeria for hosting a very important conference on connecting Europe and Africa via North Africa. We recognize the significant progress Algeria has made in macroeconomic stability and development, as well as the low inflation rate, which is having a positive impact on the economy. I would also like to express the IMF's full support for Algeria's ongoing efforts to diversify its economy. We have noted that Algeria is focusing its efforts on creating job opportunities for young people, supporting entrepreneurship and startups, and investing in human capital, which represents the future of the country.
Algerian Prime Minister Sifir Ghayeb highlighted in Algiers the existing economic opportunities in North Africa and their strategic role as a bridge between Europe, Africa, and Mediterranean countries as part of regional integration. At the opening of a high-level conference titled North Africa Connecting Continents, Creating Opportunities, Ghayeb said the event reflects the region's promising prospects and its historic and strategic role as a key global crossroads.
Your arrival from diverse geographical and institutional backgrounds to participate in this event is the best proof of the strategic importance for the topic that gathers us today under the title North Africa, Linking Decisions and Creating Opportunities, which deals in its core with the biggest questions and expresses at the same time the aspirations and the promising opportunities which our region is privileged with. This title is not only a slogan for this occasion, but it expresses a strategic vision before anything, a vision that approves the natural and historic and also the strategic role of North Africa, considering it a pivotal link between the Mediterranean and the African continent, in addition to the rising and developed economic powers.
The Algerian premier stressed that North Africa has historically served as a space for human mobility, trade flows, intellectual exchange, and cultural dialogue, calling for strengthening this identity and modernizing it to address current challenges.
The North Africa region has represented throughout history a space for the mobility of people and the flow of goods, and an environment for the blending of ideas and the cultural dialogue. And today we are invited more than any time before to consolidate this identity and update its features to be in the heart of the efforts to address current challenges. In the face of these subtle shifts, the rising will of countries and institutions becomes more important for guaranteeing and securing supply chains, especially through diminishing its subjection to risks, mainly through considering the geopolitical factor. In this context, the geopolitical factor of North Africa becomes a major competitive advantage, but also a shared responsibility for all of us.
Prime Minister Ghayeb also affirmed that Algeria is working to enhance regional integration, improve the business climate, and attract wealth-generating investments. Let's have a listen.
إننا نعمل على تعزيز التكامل الإقليمي.
We're working to strengthen regional integration, improve the climate of hope, facilitate wealth-generating investments, and create job opportunities, as well as sustainably integrate our economy into regional and global value chains. These efforts are based on structural reforms, the gradual modernization of regulatory frameworks, and a strong will to enhance the resilience of our economy in the face of external fluctuations.
The Algerian Prime Minister also stressed that Algeria aims to create a continental platform for dialogue among innovation ecosystems through the African Startup Conference hosted annually in Algeria, adding that Algeria will continue sharing this experience with African countries while also expanding telecommunications infrastructure and strengthening space capabilities.
At the continental level, and in order to ensure the optimal use of resources, Algeria, through the African Startup Conference Foundation, which it hosts annually, is creating a continental platform for dialogue between innovation ecosystems and will continue to work to share this experience and generalize the benefit of the mechanisms emanating from it to African countries. In parallel, work is underway to develop the communications infrastructure through the fiber optic network, which is being deployed at an accelerated pace, and space capabilities are constantly being enhanced.
The acting governor of the Bank of Algeria said that Algeria can play a major continental role as a catalyst for regional economic integration, emphasizing the importance of multilateral international cooperation to achieve shared development. Speaking at the high-level forum North Africa Connecting Continents, Creating Opportunities, he highlighted Algeria's major capabilities, noting that the country is a key energy supplier to Europe and possesses strong infrastructure that supports its integration into global value chains.
Algeria has the capacity to move beyond its traditional role by developing downstream activities and integrating into new renewable and electricity value chains. Positioned at the heart of North Africa, Algeria can act as a catalyst for regional integration, not only in energy, but across trade, investment, and connectivity. The Algerian institutions remain fully mobilized to turn these objectives and vision into concrete results under the guidance of the President of the Republic.
Algerian State Minister of Hydrocarbons and Mines, Mr. Mohamed Arqab, said that Algeria's energy strategy aims to make energy a driver of national development, economic diversification, and international influence by developing natural resources, meeting domestic demand, financing the energy transition, adding value to hydrocarbons and mining products, maintaining export levels, and strengthening Algeria's position in global energy markets. He added that Algeria continues to serve as a reliable and sustainable energy supplier, particularly for European partners, noting that the country ranks among the world's top 7 gas exporters, first in Africa and third in the European market.
Energy
in Algeria is a driving force for development. It serves as a means for internal development to meet local needs, and it also acts as a lever for enhancing international relations, especially with Europe, Italy, and Spain.
Arqab said the regional strategic projects such as the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline aim to boost African energy integration, support economic development in partner countries, and enable African gas exports to reach European markets, leveraging Algeria's advanced infrastructure. He also highlighted the importance of north-south electricity interconnection projects, as well as future energy initiatives such as South H2 Corridor 2 and MedLink, designed to support the energy transition and strengthen Africa-Europe energy connectivity.
Naturally, the priority with Europe, especially with Italy, is to establish an electricity interconnection. We want to move quickly toward achieving this electrical link. We have production capacity, and Italy needs terawatt-hours of electricity, as does Europe more broadly, which requires large quantities of electrical energy. We have the ability to supply energy rapidly, whether through conventional sources such as natural gas or through renewable energy. The second project we are working on with our friends in Nigeria and Niger is the Trans-Saharan Gas Pipeline project. This is a highly significant African project for African countries and neighboring states that can benefit from this pipeline. In addition to the economic returns it will generate, the pipeline's length exceeds 4,100 kilometers. It is a project that is manageable, technically feasible, and can be completed quickly. It will also create substantial added value for the countries connected to this pipeline. There is also the African Electricity Interconnection Project, through which we aim to fully participate in building an interconnected African power grid. This is a project that can be implemented gradually in cooperation with the concerned African countries, but it requires support and financing to be completed.
Algerian State Minister and Minister of Hydrocarbons and Mines, Mohamed Arqab, held talks on Thursday with the Italian Minister of Environment and Energy Security, Gilberto Fratin, to explore ways to enhance energy cooperation between Algeria and Rome. The meeting took place on the sidelines of the North Africa Conference, Connecting Continents and Creating Opportunities, hosted by Algeria. Both sides review the current state and prospects of their excellent cooperation, especially in the oil and gas sector, through existing partnerships between Algerian and Italian companies. AFP reported that a White House official said the United States will hold talks with Iran on its nuclear program on Friday in Oman. The U.S. confirmation came after Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi announced that the meeting would take place in Muscat instead of Turkey as initially scheduled. Iran's foreign ministry confirmed that nuclear talks with the United States will take place tomorrow, Friday, at around 10 a.m. in the Omani capital, Muscat. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said in a post on X that Tehran has a clear and firm intention to enter negotiations provided that Iranian demands are respected, stressing that Iran will not make concessions regarding its nuclear program. The Iranian armed forces announced that the development of ballistic missiles has strengthened Iran's deterrence capability and raised the readiness of its armed forces to confront any potential threat. During a visit to a missile center affiliated with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Iranian Armed Forces Chief of Staff Abdurrahim Mousavi said that the armed forces are in a state of constant readiness to deal with any moves by what he called the enemies, affirming Iran's preparedness for all scenarios and any hostile attack. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said that Turkey is making every possible effort to prevent escalating tensions between the United States and Iran from dragging the region into a new conflict and chaos, calling for more talks between the Iranian and American leaderships in the future. Speaking to journalists on Thursday, Erdogan praised the efforts made by both sides, noting that leader-level talks would be beneficial after negotiations are at lower levels. Chinese Vice Foreign Minister Liu Bin told Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister that China supports Iran's legitimate right to the peaceful use of nuclear energy. In a statement in Beijing on Thursday, the Chinese diplomat said that China poses threats of force and the imposition of sanctions and will continue working to support an appropriate solution to the Iranian nuclear issue. In other news, precisely in occupied Palestine, Palestinian medical sources reported that 5 people were killed and others injured after being targeted by Israeli occupation forces in several areas of the Gaza Strip. Hospitals in Gaza confirmed on Thursday that 3 of the 5 victims died from their wounds. 1 body was recovered and the 5th Palestinian civilian was shot dead by Israeli forces in the town of Beni Suhaila east of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. The new group of Palestinians returned to Gaza through the Rafah land crossing after completing medical treatment abroad. Crowds gathered in Khan Yunis to welcome the returning Palestinians, who arrived in the early hours of the day at the Nasser Medical Complex, following Israel's reopening of the crossing to Egypt earlier this week. Now to Sudan. The Sudan Doctors Network said at least 22 civilians were killed and 8 others injured after the Rapid Support Forces shelled a hospital in South Kordofan state. In a statement posted on its Facebook page on Thursday, the network said the dead include the medical director of Al-Quaik Military Hospital and 3 healthcare workers. It described the attack as part of a series of assaults that have forced hospitals in South Kordofan out of service, holding RSF fully responsible. The Sudanese army announced that its forces carried out what it described as intensive airstrikes targeting positions of the Rapid Support Forces across western combat fronts. Sources from the Sudanese military told Al-24 News on Thursday that the armed forces, along with allied units, launched multiple attacks on Rapid Support Forces positions, including a training center in the town of Kadwa in South Kordofan state. The European Union said the deadly attack carried out by the Rapid Support Forces on the city of Kadugli in South Kordofan constitutes a flagrant violation of international law. European Commissioner Haj Al Habib condemned the targeting of a health center in Kadugli and posted on X, which resulted in the killing of civilians, including children, stressing the need for international action and warning against continued silence over violations committed against civilians. The death toll from armed attacks on villages in central and northern Nigeria on Wednesday has risen to nearly 200. Local sources said gunmen attacked the town of Wuru in Kwara State, central Nigeria, rounding up residents, tying their hands behind their backs, executing them, and setting homes and shops on fire, killing at least 170 people. In a separate attack in Katsina State in the north, at least 21 people were killed after gunmen went from house to house, opening fire on residents, according to locals and police. Western media reported that the United States and Russia are nearing an agreement to continue implementing the new START Treaty on nuclear arms control after its expiration on Thursday. Axios, citing 3 sources described as familiar with the matter, said negotiations between Washington and Moscow have taken place over the past 24 hours, but have not yet resulted in an agreement. The New START Treaty, which places limits on each side's missiles, launch platforms, and strategic nuclear warheads, is the last remaining nuclear arms control agreement dating back to the Cold War era. The U.S. military said Washington and Moscow have agreed to re-establish a high-level military dialogue following recent talks, in a move that could signal a step toward normalizing some relations between the two countries. In a statement Thursday, the U.S. military said the aim of reviving the mechanism is to avoid escalation and miscalculation on both sides, adding that maintaining dialogue between the two armed forces is an important factor for global stability and peace. The Kremlin expressed regret over the expiration of the New START nuclear treaty, voicing a negative view of the situation after Moscow announced on Wednesday that it is no longer bound by the treaty's provisions. Speaking on Thursday, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said Russia views the treaty's expiration negatively and regrets it ends. He added, however, that Moscow will continue to pursue a responsible approach towards strategic stability despite the treaty's expiration. The NATO called for restraint and responsibility following the expiration of the New START treaty, the last bilateral nuclear arms control agreement between Russia and the US. A NATO official emphasized on Thursday that restraint and responsibility in the nuclear field are essential to maintaining global security. The official also noted that both Russia and China are working to enhance their nuclear capabilities, affirming that NATO will continue to take necessary measures to ensure defense system. And the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres described the expiration of the New START nuclear arms control treaty between the United States and Russia as a critical moment for international peace and security, calling both parties to negotiate without delay a new framework that imposes limits on a nuclear armament. The New START treaty expired on Thursday, officially releasing both Moscow and Washington from a range of restrictions on their nuclear arsenals. The end of our program for tonight. Thanks for your kind attention. Have a good night.